Welcome back. This is part 2 of my video series on technical interviews and getting through technical interviews. If you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend it. In that part, I talk more about the mental mindset you might need to have to get through that, especially as a junior developer. And the long story short, it's going to be a lot of rejection, a lot of negative answers, a lot of feelings and emotions that come up as a result of that, and basically um, my advice is treat it as a numbers game. Don't take it personally. Get through so many. Keep trying. Basically, set a goal from, I don't know, get to 10,000. Oh, sorry, get to 10 in-person interview. Maybe for that you need 50 phone calls. Maybe you need to send out 1,000 resumes. Whatever your numbers are, set them and just treat every no as just one step closer to getting to your yes. And if you get to, through yeah, anyway, I'm pretty sure if you get through this many at work, you will find something that works for you. Um, anyway, that was part 1. In part 2, I started talking more about the actual in-person interview. So another refresher is every interview normally consists of a resume submission, a phone screen, and an in-person part. In this video, I'm just going to talk about the in-person part. And in the last video, before I got cut off, I just got to mention that my first tip is not number one, but first tip is don't overdress. Do not overdress. Most of my interviews I would show up wearing a suit at first, and I just looked out of place. I looked like I was hiding something, like something was wrong with me. It basically serves as a red flag. I think the good middle ground is business casual, meaning slacks and a nice tucked-in shirt, no tie, and if you don't want to, you can just show up basically dressed as I am right now. That's probably totally fine, and nobody will actually care as long as you do well in your actual technical portion, answers questions well. So most of technical interviews consist of talking to about 4 to 5 people. Usually they'll ask a few minutes to tell you about yourself. In addition to what you have in your resume, they might ask you to clarify a thing or two. But I think the core of most technical interviews that I've been through, most of them, I'll talk about the other ones in a second, but most of them will ask you technical questions. And I guess before we dive deep into the technical questions, the other type of questions you might get is normal personality type of questions. Tell me what's your greatest weakness, that kind of bullshit. Tell me the projects you worked on. I recommend thinking through those most common questions. They're easily Googleable. You can Google for them and prepare for them, because yes, it's not gonna be core deciding thing, but you want to have a good answer. And I have bombed interviews when I did well technically, but then just personality, the person feel like we're not gonna click, and that was the end of that. So you want to be prepared for that. There's 2 books I'm going to recommend. Might as well recommend them now. There's one, Cracking the Coding Interview, and the second one is Technical Interviews Exposed. I actually like Technical Interviews Exposed better as the first book because it's much smaller. I'll give you a good overview of what you need to know and kind of what I'm going to talk about next. And Cracking the Coding Interview is a bigger book. There's a smaller portion in front that kind of gives you like practical tips. They talk about the soft questions preparation and how to prepare your resume better. And there's a thick portion where there's the problems and solutions, and you will definitely need to. I encourage you to read through that, but there's a lot of stuff to get through, and there's other more interactive tools which I will talk about later that'll help you with that portion. But definitely get the book, look through it just to give an idea, and read the first part, the soft skills part, every word, and then look through the examples at least, and maybe solve a few that stood out for you. Try to solve all of them if you can, but if you can't, I understand. I haven't done most 99% of them because it's a lot of stuff, but it would be really good for you to do that. Anyway, but yeah, those good two books, I'll link to them in the notes. So finally get into the actual technical portion of the interview. So technical portion of the interview, I'm gonna start with another story. I was done with my bachelor's/master's degree. I was some guy that I took a class with that really liked, he was working in the industry for a while. He really liked me. He thought I was a sharp guy. Thank you very much. His words, not mine. Anyway, just kidding. But yeah, no, he recommended me highly to this one person who was starting a startup. He came from Google. and he was gonna screen me on the phone. And we got on the phone, and he asked me some question, and tell me a little bit about yourself, type of deal. And then he asks me, let's say something like binary search. He asked me about binary search tree. Let's say, I don't remember exactly. And he asked me what is the big O notation complexity, meaning the time complexity of this algorithm. And I remember what it was, and I answered something like, I actually don't remember now, like log n or something. And then he said, okay, cool, and how do you calculate log n? How do you know it's log n? And I was like, something divide something by factorial, like exponent, and then logarithm, and then like I was like, I didn't know, like, right? I didn't know. I actually don't know now. I mean, I do know if I sit down and write on the paper, I can definitely easily write to it, but I don't, like, it doesn't just pop off my, I look pretty stupid right now, right? Like, I don't look confident at all. And I looked worse at the time, because at the time I completely didn't expect that question at all. I was taken aback. I was like, why are you asking me binary search tree? I studied that like 3 years ago in algorithm and data structures class, and I got an A in that class, but it's been so long and I've done so many things since then. Why are you even asking me about that? I was really, really surprised. And I guess my confusion is understood if you've never been in the tech industry. Like right now, I'm like, oh yeah, silly me. Of course he's gonna ask me something like that. Because they're literally 80%, if not 90% of all your tech interviews gonna be algorithm and data structures one-on-one. Binary search trees, tree traversal, linked list if you like it because it's an easier question, double linked list, that sort of thing. Yeah, and they always wanna, merge sort, that sort of thing. They always gonna want you to know time and specs, well, definitely time complexity, sometimes space complexity. Time meaning how long it would take to run, worst case. Space is how much memory you would need. And they basically always ask this variation of like some kind of data structure algorithm question. And I was really taken aback by that at first. I want to give people a heads up, but that's what's gonna happen. That they're gonna ask you everything else you learn in school or whatever, it's not gonna matter. But you really have to be sharp on those things, and they're gonna ask you those things. And I mean, I kind of hate it, but I also kind of understand, because if you have an hour as a person, that's like the surest way to fairly gauge them against different people, right? Because if I give you this problem and you solve it in college, and I've interviewed a lot of people since then, I can tell, like, hey, yeah, you've been working full time for 20 years out of college, obviously you forget this thing. So I give people, like, it's okay, like, work with me through this thing, just remember how it's done and show me you can do it. You don't have to like sharply remember right away how to do this thing. But honestly, the people who do the best in this interview, sorry to say that, but it's the people who